everybody, it's your girl TC and I'm back in another video. On Friday, November 11th, our country honored our veterans who served in past wars. I thought it'd be fitting for me to put down my notebook and venture out to see Sergeant Aaron Hays. Sergeant Aaron Hays and his beautiful wife Vonya welcomed me into their home, and we had an unscripted conversation. We laughed and we talked about their life in the military and how they went from foolishness to faith, and how Aaron is no longer taking baby steps in Christ, but he's doing big strides. So at this time, I would like to introduce Sergeant Aaron Hays and his beautiful wife Vonya. Welcome them.
Hello.
Hello, hello. So first, give me some background. How did you two meet? Let's go with you first.
Oh, my story. we met. Yes, we met passing by in junior high.
In junior high?
In junior high.
And this is like 7th grade, 8th grade?
This is
no 8th.
8th grade.
Did you start dating?
That would probably be at the end of 9th grade.
So fast forward, you go through high school. When did you know, Aaron, that Vonya was the one for you?
Probably, I think we started, yeah, so it's at the end of 9th grade. We started dating 10th grade, and then from then, and then...
He dated my family.
Yes. 12th grade, back serious, and then so on and so on from then on. It was serious.
At that point, did you know that you wanted to go to the military, or how did that
that was
happen?
Life-changing event. At the time, well, before then, we always talked about getting married. So that was always the idea. It was just a matter of when. So we had our first child's life. I was walking from football practice, and I was thinking I need to make a life-changing decision. Coming from football practice, I was going to Diablo Valley College. Mm-hmm. So I was coming from football practice, walking down the street, knowing that I have a family pretty soon on the way, or somewhat here. I had to make some decisions, some changes. And as I'm passing 7-Eleven, coming down from the school, I see a recruiting station. I pop in my head in there and said, hey, where's the Air Force office? I mean, I saw Army, Navy, Marine, but no Air Force. And then from there, that's when the Army just started talking and trying to recruit me. From there, I made the decision to join based off changes in my life. I was pretty much fed up with Oakland. I grew up on East 27th.
Murder down.
I needed a change of scenery.
Okay.
And I made that choice for me to support my family. There was no decision from like God. It was like I seek God at that point in my life to say, hey, Lord, tell me what you want me to do. Now I wasn't there yet.
Okay. Vonya, what was your first thought when he came to you and said, this is what I want to do?
I don't remember my first thought, but I remember what others were telling me. And there was a mixture of being very proud and being very scared for me. I remember being told by a really good family friend that it takes a special woman to be a military wife. And I really didn't understand it. I thought to be a wife, it just takes any kind of special woman. Like, you have to be committed. I knew that much. But I didn't understand what that meant. Now that I do, it takes a very, very diligent and disciplined spouse to support.
So you made the decision, and then how long after that Was there boot camp and all of that?
It was like 3 months. So I shipped in November. So you back it up 3 months from there, and that's when the decision was made. I left pretty fast.
And where were you? Where did you go?
Boot camp was Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri.
How long was it?
Boot camp lasted from November and then came back April 13th. Oh, I'm sorry, April 28th. April 28th is when I got back.
Okay, so then during this time, Vonya, you were home with baby Aaron at that time.
Yes. And I had what I thought was the best support system for me. Like I had my mom, my grandmother, my sisters, my uncles, friends.
And then I assume you were busier with military life, but I'm pretty sure that you missed your family back at home. So how did you cope with that?
You just try to remember, you just remember the good times. You have pictures, you write, you have time to talk to your loved ones at certain points.
Every 2 weeks.
I was going to say, because it's not like you could just pick up the phone like, hey, I'm thinking about you, let me call you.
We wake up, both of us snoring.
So, I mean, you get opportunities, but your training is so at points. I mean, it's not all the way through, but your training is so in depth where sometimes you don't have. I mean, you're thinking about your family, but you're not. I mean, you're missing your family, but it's also you're countering tiredness, sleepiness, fatigue, and all that other stuff that comes along with it, and you're combating that with your family being missed.
Right.
So, I mean, you are missing your family. It just for someone else in the civilian world, it wouldn't be as noticeable. Right. T-phone card.
Right.
And free mail.
And my mom had a 1-800 number that we could call her and just, I would fall asleep and he would talk to her. Then I would wake up and she would have to go to work and then I would talk to him.
Aw, so you really did court. I mean, you married the whole family, not just her.
Like we would pass the phone around to my sisters. Like whoever was in the house had to talk to him. Like it wasn't like just me.
That's awesome. So he was stationed in Missouri, or boot camp was in Missouri. Do you find out when you're in boot camp where you're going the next place, or?
Yeah. So while you're in Missouri, so I had one of those opportunities where my boot camp and my AIT, which is your job, your training for the Army or for the military, was located. So my boot camp initial training was at Fort Leonard Wood. Also, my job training was there as well. Mm-hmm. So my job training was when I first enlisted, I picked 88 Mike, which is transportation/truck driver. Mm-hmm. While in AIT, being that the occupation that I picked was very subject to being injured or killed, or is very high risk job. So in AIT, we had this one drill sergeant, and during AIT, when the war actually started, we had a chance in our day room, and our day room is basically like a den with couches and a TV. We call it a day room. And as we're sitting there, they would make us watch the news. And down on the news teleprompter, it said convoy ambushed. So us being supply line, truck drivers, we had this one drill sergeant, and he would come in. It's like, you see that, privates? That's y'all. Y'all gonna die. That's all y'all gonna die. Like literally, he would say that. I have no idea what he was trying to accomplish with that, but he scared the hell out of a lot of people.
Right.
And then from there, we start learning statistics of 88 mics on the battlefield of how how long you last. And from there on, you know, it was beating your head that, you know, you drive how you're supposed to drive, and you follow your the vehicle in front of you, you follow your tactics or whatever your convoy commander have went over in your briefing. You follow whatever instructions that you have. And then from there is, you know, is you and the good Lord. As I got to Fort Drum, I found out that my unit was deploying. So I literally got out of, when I left April 28th, going to Fort Drum, I left May 13th to deploy.
Let's not take for granted that people know. When you say that you were deployed, where were you deployed to?
First deployment, I was deployed to Kuwait, Camp Spearhead.
Life like during deployment?
First deployment was, it was a big deal. I mean, I ran into the military, never been deployed, never been anywhere, never been out the continental USA.
While you were gone, and this question is more so for Vonya, what was life like? Because you were newly married,
mm-hmm.
You had a baby. So what was life like without seeing your husband every day?
Oh, so it was very difficult. It was very difficult. But then they had like the Yellow Ribbon program, family readiness, different little, I call them counseling sessions, but they were supposed to, like, support groups, other wives in the unit. They would hand out these handkerchiefs that had Psalm 91 on them. So, you know, I didn't really think anything of it until I was sitting at my dining room table one day, and I really looked at it and read it. This was during the summer that he was gone. And once I got serious about God, once I put my confidence in him, it got harder, because I remember getting strange phone calls, and literally it would be people calling me and cussing at me. I didn't know these people. I didn't know any of them, couldn't recognize the voice. They were cussing at me and telling me that, what do you think you're doing? What are you doing? Stop that. What do you think you're doing? Just belittling me. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd. Why would strange people call me to try to get me to stop reading my Bible? Like, I don't understand that. And again, I learned that it was just the enemy trying to get me not to put my faith in God, because that is how he was going to come home. It wasn't him trying to be safe, though common sense and wisdom plays a big part over there. It was the word. Once I got serious about him, I stopped being so foolish and nitpicky and wasting time on the phone, arguing or being upset or complaining about different things, because of course the toilet's going to overflow and the battery's going to die on the car and everything's going to go wrong those first couple weeks. But I mean, it's just your faith being tested. And at the time, I couldn't put the words I'm using now to it. I just knew I needed to trust God. I knew what that looked like. And that looked like me with my nose in a book, his book. So once I got serious about God and I stopped messing around with that foolishness and partying and really like trying to drink your problems away and just being stupid at 21 and 22, that's really when my life changed. And I knew that God started showing me, you know, this was the right path for Aaron. I mean, he doesn't put too much on that, and he doesn't put too much on ROTC, but it all started adding up to him just being a really disciplined person. And I had to admire that. I had to admire that he wanted that for his family. Like, yeah, it was to provide for us, but when you think about it, the salary of a soldier is not much. And if you're not trusting God to multiply that, like, you're screwed.
So at that point, I know before you said that you weren't seeking him as much as you should have.
As much as I should have, yes.
Being deployed, was that when it changed, or?
Yes and no, because I was at that time I was truly a babe in Christ. I was seeking him more, but at baby steps. Okay. I started relying on him more than versus, other people or my own thoughts or my own knowledge. I say at the point it started was probably boot camp is when I started seeking God at a at a baby step rate. It did speed up once I got deployed seeking God. And I realized when you see God, I was thinking to myself, it's either war or jail. You start seeking God.
Right. Lightening it up just a bit. And part of the moments is the wedded moments as well. How did you keep that part going? How did you keep that part going?
I have all kinds of letters that I have in ribbons that I kept. It's probably probably a box that I have. And we just kept it saucy. Yes, we did. Kept it saucy. And I love words. I love writing. So that was like a love language that he spoke to me through. And, for him, it was spending time with him. Even though I was on the phone with him and I was tired. And son Aaron was really young. Sleep was inconsistent for those first 2 years. It really was. And I like to think, even though we were married on paper and we had committed ourselves to God, we didn't really start living as husband and wife until 2 years into our marriage, because it was just too much of not being at the same place at the same time.
For another deployment, I left.
Okay, and then where did you go then?
That when I went to Iraq.
Okay. And what was the time difference between the two?
7 months.
Basically, the unit had enough time to either come home, get your wife pregnant, or become pregnant and leave.
Right.
Literally.
Is that what Grace came?
No. We did have a couple miscarriages.
Okay.
I think it ended up being 2. Pretty far along with one of them. I just thank God he was home for it and I wasn't alone.
Aaron, in the military, you've had obviously more than one title. What title? So you started off with the transportation, and then where did you go from there?
From there, I went to 56 Mike, which is chaplain assistant. And for me to pick chaplain assistant, actually wasn't my first choice. When I had got out in 2006, I had got out for 8 months. And what was going on is that they were calling people back. So if you're basically E5 or over 88 Mike, they were calling you back. And they literally started on the East Coast and worked their way to the West Coast, pulling names. So I already knew that in a short amount of time, if you're not in a unit, they're pulling you from our ears. So I was like, okay, let me go somewhere just to fulfill my MSO. And then write that out, and I can be totally out. So my father worked with a recruiter. If any kid are in there, he's just there to recruit some of the kids that's there. So I ended up reaching out to him, be like, hey, you know what? I need to basically leave my MOS. Tell me what's available. Tell me what's available, and this is what I have in mind. 25 Romeo, which is combat camera. Let me know if you can find that for me. So he got back. He's like, I found a unit. It's in Vail. Vail is in LA, California. I was like, okay, once a month, I can probably pull that off. And then he's like, you know what? Let me check on something. I'll get right back to you. He came back to me. He was like, hey, what about chaplain assistant? And I started laughing. He didn't know why. He didn't know why I started laughing. I started laughing because Not only did some people sometimes wanted me to pray, then the chaplain, we also the unit knew, or they saw that I was a believer, and they started seeking me more, asking questions, and seeking their own path. Also, at the same time, we had my platoon was the only platoon to have 0 KIAs.
What's that?
Killed in action. So we're the only platoon in my unit to have 0. The other platoon, each platoon other than that had a casualty. I was in 3rd platoon, so we had 3 platoons: 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. 1st and 2nd each had one casualty, but my platoon was the only one with no fatality.
That's awesome. So
Like literally,
setup.
yeah, it just every time we went on convoys, like literally, they would ask me to pray for convoys.
Praise the Lord, thank you.
Yeah, it's like they're like, oh, we don't have a chaplain. No worry, we got our own. Like, Hayes, you're up, pray. Like literally, a lot of people, you know, like I said before, it takes war and jail to take somebody and start making them think about God. And from that deployment, oh man, I saw so many people start actually, like, you know, really start digging in to like who's God. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So from there on, when he called and said chaplain assistant, I already knew that's where God wanted me to go. That's the path he wanted me.
And then to be at a church like Berith, where you're actually getting the word and not just using that title to reach people.
It's like you got ice cream sundae. You got all this caramel and coffee syrup and chocolate. Then you got all these cute little toppings and cookie crumbs and the cherries. I don't like whipped cream. All that together, just sitting
How you
there.
have a sundae with no whipped cream?
Because you don't eat all that.
That's awesome. So, what advice would you, Aaron, give to a young man or young woman today if they told you that they wanted to go into the military? What advice would you give them?
Seek God first.
Say it louder.
Seek God first.
Okay.
What you're getting into in the military. Like if you're going Marines, research it, research your job that you want to do. Same thing with Air Force, Navy, Army, Coast Guard, research it.
And then Vonya, what would you say to a wife who is experiencing that?
I would say do your homework on what discipline and authority is and become one with it.
What do you have any final thoughts that you would like married people to know about military life?
You a punk. Stay home.
Y'all noticed she looked at the camera when she said that.
You ain't got no loyalty, no heart. Stay home.
You have to be diligent. You have to be diligent.
You give up, you will not last.